A while ago, I read One Piece for the first time, up to the Alabasta arc, and I'm so glad that I did. It introduced me to one of the best manga I've read in terms of action, art, and characters, so it's no surprise that I've continued reading the series. And today, I'm going to be reading the entire Water 7 and Enies Lobby's arcs within 24 hours. This is also my first time reading them, so I was going in completely blind, and that meant I got to fully experience the sheer awesomeness of these arcs. This video is shot predominantly in real life though, so it means I've been able to work some cool shots and angles in there, but it also means that the mic quality does vary, so apologies for that. But nevertheless, I hope you enjoy my first time reading One Piece, Water 7 edition.
Oh yeah, since this video is focusing on the Water 7 arc, you probably still want to know my opinions on Jaya and Skypiea, which I read in my own time. Firstly, Jaya is awesome, and that Bellamy fight ranks up there as one of my favorites of all time, just because of the sheer power Luffy shows with one punch. Not only was it a great way to demonstrate Luffy's 100 million berry bounty, but it was also a really nice callback to the first chapter of One Piece, where basically Shanks takes a beating and just doesn't fight back, just like Luffy does in the first encounter with Bellamy, and then when Shanks' friend gets insulted or in danger, that's when he springs into action. It's the same with Luffy. And Skypiea, I see a lot of people disliking Skypiea, but I think it was actually a really solid arc.
Admittedly, there was a lot going on, but I think it did work out alright in the end. Luffy versus Enies was brilliant. I love that there was multiple fights, and Luffy did keep figuring out ways to counter Enies, but that didn't mean he automatically won. I also love how strong Enies was basically the whole time, one-shotting practically any of the Straw Hats and the other characters, and it's just down to pure coincidence that Luffy could actually counter him. I feel like in any other world, if he'd had any other Devil Fruit, that would have been the end of the story, because I don't think Luffy was taking him out.
Gum Gum Golden Rifle was a cold ending and a really cool finisher to beat Enies with. But even better than that, my actual favourite moment of the arc was of course when the bell gets rung and you see Cricket's reaction all the way down on Jaya. That is so cool. It's not so much about beating a big bad just as it is proving someone's dream true that they've had for generations, and proving also that his ancestors were correct. But okay, let's move on to the actual topic of this video, which is Water 7. I'm trying to read it in 24 hours.
Okay, the challenge is about to start. It's currently 8:13 in the morning. I'm really tired, but I need to just get started with this challenge if I'm going to do it in 24 hours. So, let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it.
So I just read Long Ring Long Land, which I wasn't really expecting. I was kind of expecting it to transition straight into Water 7, but I guessed this was like a mini arc in between. And after looking up a bit about it, it turns out it's not the most favorably looked on of all the One Piece arcs. And I guess that's because it sort of just feels a little bit like filler. It was surprisingly funny though, and as a boxer, I really liked the final fight between Luffy and Foxy. The fact Luffy wouldn't go down for a KO was really cool and just embodies like everything he's about. But yeah, I can sort of see where people are coming from. It didn't feel super necessary, although I guess it's sort of like a little break between a really big arc, which was Skypiea, and another huge arc which I'm anticipating will be the Water 7 arc. So I guess this is sort of a little breather. Anyway, the final few chapters of the Long Ring Long Land arc ended very excitingly, because there was basically this guy called Aokiji, and we saw like literally one panel of him riding a bicycle across the ocean, which was sick. Then I forgot about him. Then he returned like in this final chapter, so I'm excited to see what happens. Apparently he knows Nico Robin, so I guess we'll find out.
This is a really cool panel. Reminds me of Alabasta. This is so cool. Alright, quick lunch break and I'll give you the update on where we are so far in the Water 7 story. That's hot.
So we've just read probably one of the coolest bits of One Piece I've read so far, which is saying a lot because I've loved the story so far. But yeah, I'm about midway through volume 35 and I've just finished the fight between Luffy and Usopp. Now this is a cool fight for many different reasons. Obviously, we know the outcome of the fight, what it's going to be, but the actual way that it gets to the outcome is a lot more cool than you'd expect. Because Usopp, like he says, he knows Luffy backwards, right? So when they are fighting, it's a lot more even than you think at the start. And of course, this is a fight not based on actual violence, but more just the emotions going on between the two characters. Usopp doesn't want to leave the merry-go, and Luffy has accepted that they have to continue on their journey. And then also, I feel like this is the first time we've seen Luffy make a captainly decision that isn't based on like fighting. Obviously, he is fighting Usopp. This time he's taken a stand. He has made the difficult decision that they have to leave the merry-go, which is really cool. I think it adds a lot more maturity and depth to Luffy's character, which was potentially lacking before. I'm also glad One Piece isn't afraid to go into these more like detailed and conflicting views of ideologies between the characters. Of course Usopp isn't going to want to go along with it. Of course there's going to be an argument and maybe a fight. It just seems like a realistic approach, and I'm glad that Oda went with that rather than the whole, oh Luffy, that's okay man, yeah, let's go get our new ship. Yeah, so I'm going to enjoy this pie, and then I've got a lot of reading to do, so let's get on with it. What are you reading, man?
Oh yeah, man, I'm reading One Piece.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
no
awesome.
way,
Take a
that's
look.
awesome.
It's a lovely afternoon, so how about we go and read some One Piece outside for a change? Okay, it's currently 9:45, which means we've been doing this for nearly 14 hours, giving us about 10 hours tomorrow and just in the coming days to finish off reading the whole of the Water 7 arc. Now, what I have read just now is Volume 38, Volume 39, and probably coolest of them all in this Water 7 arc so far, Volume 40.
Now, I don't know if this technically counts as a different arc, because they've entered Enies lobby, which is basically this government facility where Luffy and the Straw Hats are trying to save Robin and bring her back to the crew. So, I don't know if it counts as a separate arc, but it still says Water 7 on the volumes, so I'm still going to obviously finish it for this video. It feels like the culmination of everything so far. Alabasta felt like this to an extent, but this just feels like it's on a completely different level, because they're not only just fighting basically one guy and his organization. This is the world government. This is a big deal. And on top of that, it's not just the Straw Hat Pirates this time. They've got support of their own from like the shipsmen and the craftsmen from Water 7. They've got Frankie's family helping them out. And, you know, you've got God Usopp over here helping them out and getting the giants from Enies lobby on their side, which is really cool to see. But probably the coolest thing of all that I've read so far is on this cover right here. Now, I'll admit, while most of this was spoiler-free to me, I did know about the gear powers. It's pretty hard to avoid if you've ever encountered One Piece. And whenever I'm driving a car, all I can think about whenever I'm changing gears is Luffy's different powers, but I didn't know exactly what they entailed. So, when I just read Volume 40, and he went into Gear 2, which was essentially this, like, super speed version of him, that was so cool. He took him down with basically no effort. And I do think this is a justified power and, like, needed power that Luffy got, because I have to say I was wondering how he was going to stack up against these other guys. It felt realistic that he could beat Crocodile in a straight up fist fight, but with the powers these guys have, they basically have like 6 or 7 powers all at once. It definitely makes sense that Luffy needed a little power upgrade. But this is so cool, and what's most interesting is that at the end of Luffy's fight with Blueno, I believe is his name, Luffy beat him with Gear 2, but at the end of the fight he thought he was still conscious, so he was like, oh, I'm going to unleash Gear, and then he didn't unleash Gear 3, but I'm assuming we might also see Gear 3 in this arc, which would be crazy. I sort of thought they'd save it for like 10 or 15 volumes down the line, but if that is true, that is so cool. Anyway, I've got a long day of reading tomorrow and probably the day after, as it's no longer the weekend and I have college. I still have the 24-hour time limit and we have about 10 hours left. It's right up here is how many hours exactly we have left.
That is awesome. This is it, gang, the final volume, volume 45. We've come a long way and I've read a lot of volumes, but this is the last one, so let's go ahead and read it.
Okay, that is it. That is literally all of Water 7 completed. Firstly, we'll talk about the fights that ended this arc, and for number one, we've got Luffy versus Rob Lucci. This was an awesome fight because, of course, as I mentioned earlier, he was unleashing the gear powers, Gear 2, and, like I rightly predicted, Gear 3, which admittedly wasn't as cool as Gear 2, but it was still very cool to see in action, and a very satisfying fight at the end of it. I particularly love that Usopp was the one to basically give Luffy the willpower to stand back up and continue the fight. That was really cool. It came full circle from right up at the start of this video when they had that fight. Also got to give a huge shout out to Frankie for his contributions during the Water 7 fights. He felt like he never stopped fighting. Like he fought one of the underlings at the start, and then he went all the way up the tower and then helped Robin fight, and then after that they were all fighting the military guys as well from the Navy. Dude, he was insane during this arc, so it was very cool that he joined the Straw Hats at the end, and of course, he built them the 1000 Sunny. Now this final volume right here of the Water 7 arc is one of the coolest final volumes to any arc I've read because so much payoff happened. Firstly, the bounties. It's really cool that everyone finally has a bounty. It did feel kind of weird that only Luffy and Zoro did for the longest time, so it's really cool that everyone has one now. It's really funny that Chopper's is 50 berries, but yeah, that was a really cool bit of payoff. The funeral and sort of sending off of the Going Merry was really sweet, and I felt like it was a great conclusion to the Going Merry's arc. It's been with the crew for so long, and I do think this feels like a good point to move on and get a new ship, because of course it wasn't stacking up. It had taken so much damage. It was only realistic that it was going to run out at some point, and this new 1000 Sunny with twice the capabilities, I can't wait to see what adventures it leads the crew on in the future. A couple other standout moments from this final volume were learning that, okay, firstly, Luffy has a granddad in the military, and secondly, his father was that guy all the way back in Logtown. His name's Monkey D. Dragon, and another thing is in Robin's flashback, which took a whole volume, but I'm not complaining because it was really cool. In that flashback, a giant helped her called Saul, yes, like the lawyer, but his full name had the initial D in it. Does that mean that he's related to Luffy somehow? I don't know right now. I mean, it's obviously there for a reason, but that's just a cool thing I noticed. But yeah, so many things happened in this arc, and if I had to do a tier list of it, if I put this whole arc as a thing, I don't think it's a surprise to say that it would go right at the very top of S tier. I think the character writing and plot developments were just on another level during this arc. They felt more mature, especially with the whole Luffy and Usopp debate, and I really liked Zoro's stance right at the end of this 45th volume, where he basically said that he didn't want Usopp returning to the crew unless he apologized straight up. I think that was a really cool way to show Zoro's character, and again, it gave the crew just a better sense of maturity, because it makes sense that they want to take Usopp back with open arms, but as a captain, and if he's going to be the future king of the pirates, that's not the example he should be setting. Zoro is absolutely right. So yeah, a very cool way to enter him back into the crew. I'm glad he rejoined. And with Frankie and the 1000 Sunny, the crew is stronger than ever. So I guess I gotta go get my hands on box set 3. If you want to see that, if you want to see me read that, just give me support on this video. Drop a comment, especially if you made it to the end, because I know this video is going to be a long one. But with that, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And until next time, have a good one.